start a new recording here, and let me just line a couple things up. Feel free to post in chat if you see or if I go offline. Okay, so I got that out of the way. So today, the rest of this session that I want to do, let me make sure I'm still recording. Yeah, I'm recording. Minimize that window, I don't need it. And get back to here. Okay, so I did not cover this line and this line. Now let's get bishop e7 out of the way. I do have a video of this up on YouTube. It's in my playlist, how to play the openings. It's the very first one. This move, as I explained earlier, it stops knight g5. Okay, and white will say, oh shucks, I'll just castle. Black plays knight f6, and white says, oh boy, I get to do the fork. But now there's a difference in the position compared to the two knights defense. The difference is white is castled, this bishop is here. Now black is able to just simply castle out of the danger. And I've seen white players go ahead and take this, and now I believe black is winning strategically.
Check.
Black has 6 pieces, white has 5. Black has a bishop and knight for the rook. Individually, they're not as strong as the rook, but together they're more powerful. So what's probably going to happen here is black will develop his pieces, then he uses extra piece to win a pawn, and then win another pawn, creating a pawn majority. Advance those pawns up the board to get a pass pawn, then the extra piece will help that pass pawn move up the board, and eventually white will have to give up material to stop it from queening, and then it's just a wrap up. Okay, so what's white's best move after bishop e7? Well, it turns out the strongest move is oops. Let's take the outside back. The strongest move is d4. Now, what should black do? Well, you don't want to take this. You know, we're trying to maintain a strong point here. The best move is d6. Now, one choice that white has is to take the pawn. Now, how should black respond here? Well, first off, it's a mistake to take with the knight, because after the trade, white gets a double attack. The queen is threatening this, and the queen is threatening this. Black's losing a pawn. Okay, so black simply takes back on e5 with his pawn. And if white takes, there's a difference between this and the other positions we were looking at earlier. Black has this bishop out. So black can now take the queen with the bishop. He doesn't have to surrender the pawn on e5 or lose castling privileges. Okay, so this position is considered about even. And I have more detail in a couple of game examples on my YouTube video. Okay, so white's other choice is to push. Now this may not be the best move. Some authors like it for white. But one thing that just happened is the center is closed. Nothing's getting through. Minor pieces, major pieces. The only thing that we can do is the strategy is dictated now. There's a pawn chain rule. Black has a pawn chain, white has a pawn chain. And we basically want to attack the base of the pawn chain. And so black's objective is to play for f5 at some point, and white's objective is to play for c5. So, you know, what do I do now? Well, develop your pieces and prepare those plans. That's what you do. Be careful how you do it. Try to find the best ways to do it. Think. Analyze the game afterwards. Okay, so meanwhile, back to this position. Let's get rid of the arrows. What should black do with his knight? Well, I've seen a lot of people who play this, so this is not a good move. Okay, white's just going to play bishop d3, and if black is paying attention, we'll realize he has a problem here. White has a threat. The threat is to play b5 or b4 and win that knight. Okay, when you win that knight, you win the game. You have your b piece up. So black pretty much has to stop and play b6 here. Now, if white wants to drive that knight back, he can. But, you know, I'm in favor of just letting the knight sit there. Let's just develop our pieces, okay? At some point, we don't know when, black will realize this knight has no future there, and he will bring it back into the game here. So let him do that when he thinks it's time. So we don't want to play knight a5, and if they do, this is how we defend against it. So the best move for black, you know, a lot of people are reluctant to do this, is just to play knight b8. Now, you know, a lot of people say, I can't do that. I developed the piece. I can't put him back. Well, yeah, you can. Because, see, even though white's ahead in development, the center is closed. White can't break through it and break this position open and get a quick attack, as I've explained in my other videos. So, you know, white will develop and black will play here. And white may develop again. Let's play this. Now, one idea for black is to stop and play a5 here. Not a developing move, but the idea is we want this knight posted here, and we don't want it driven away by b4. So, you know, the chances here are about even, and this is a perfectly satisfactory game. You know, now, you know, I was talking in the other video on these openings. You can, if you want to play knight f6 as opposed to the Hungarian defense, it's a great move, but you have to know it. Now, the lazy man approach is the bishop e7 means you don't have to study as much, but you're not going to get a chance to win win if you know how to play these openings. You know, I mean, if white misplays his hand against the normal two knights or the Gioco pianos, we're going to see in a little bit. You know, black is not good. You know, if white misplays that, black can win. He's not necessarily going to win easily. He'll just have to outplay his opponent from this point on. And again, my YouTube video has a couple of examples where the queens were traded on d8, and then I won the game. So it makes it easy study, but you know, let's get in the habit of studying. Let's learn that, you know, to play the two knights defense, or in this case, this video, this broadcast is going to talk about this move, and this is a great move. Okay. Again, you have to know a lot of theory. Now, currently, these variations come up a lot in top-level Grandmaster play. And the common move they like to play, because they know their opponents are booked up for the tricky lines, which we're going to get into momentarily. But the Grandmasters tend to favor playing d3 here. And then they'll follow up with c3 and h3. You know, I'm very against these h3 moves, but the games tend to take a very, very even flow, and not much happens. And move 35, they look up and say, "Would you like a draw?" And that's what they do. And if they're lucky, they'll find a way to pick up some kind of small advantage that they can use their Grandmaster technique and grind out a win. But there are some strategies you can use. It's kind of fun with white or black here, and I'm going to illustrate those in a moment. Okay, so let's just move forward. Now here's one of the strategies here: bishop e3. And like I say, what's fun about this, we can do it on both sides. Let's look at it. Now, what's black going to do? We don't know. But suppose he takes. His best move is to come back to b6, by the way. You know, he looks at this and says, look, I've doubled his pawns. But, you know, I was talking about these double pawns earlier. They do control a lot of territory. You know, and in turn, we control this square. So white is controlling 5 squares in the center or near the center. Black, on the other hand, is controlling 3 squares with his pawns. So white has a little more mobility here in return for the double pawns. Now, I've seen people, and some of my students, get into this variation, and what they try to do here, let me get rid of the the arrows. What they try to do is they fail to realize the value of these pawns, and they attempt to induce black to make a trade. Let's develop some pieces here. I'm just going to play this for the fun of it. And, you know, they'll strive at the earliest point to get d4 and hoping for this position. But one of the problems with this move is, well, number one, white's lost a tempo. He's taken 2 moves to play d4. But the other problem he runs into is this pawn is now unprotected. And I've seen games where white ends up losing that pawn because some carelessness, he didn't get enough defenders on it, and black piles up and wins it. Okay, so but white has a much more effective strategy here, and that strategy is we have an F file. Okay, black doesn't have an F file to operate on. White does. So white could develop some attacking chances against the black king. Now let's take a look at some of those. Okay. Now, white would like to get his knight here and his queen here. That's what white would like to do, and see black castled and deliver a checkmate. Okay, that's what white would like to do. Of course, we're not necessarily going to be so lucky. But how do we go about doing this? Well, we have to move the queen twice. We have to move the knight twice. But it's too early to move the knight, because when we try to transfer the knight there, we run into trouble. And the trouble is here. Discovered attack. If we take this, not only do we have double pawns, we've lost a pawn. Okay. So the trick here is to stop and play queen e1. Now let's continue developing for black. Now we can safely play knight h4 because the knight has a defender. Okay. What's black going to do? We don't know. Let's put this here, and I'm just going to play this, and then say he goes here, and hey, look, I'm attacking the queen. I'm threatening mate. You know, if black takes, we can take back with the rook. And, you know, then it's just a matter of moving this knight and swinging the other rook over. And, you know, those are candidate moves to start the attack, right? Okay. If he takes this, if he retreats the queen, well, we got a problem here. Check.
Check.
And check. Now we get to do a windmill here. Check. Put him back. How much can we take?
Check.
Let's see how much we can take here.
Check.
Now, what do we want to do now? Well, we can stop and take the rook. And then if we want, we can steal another pawn. White's won, not only won the exchange, he's picked up 4 pawns. Kind of surprising, huh? But, I mean, this just kind of shows you some of the ideas. Now, let's back this up. Let's not put the queen on e7. Okay. Whoa, went too far. Darn it. Sorry. Okay. Simple to fix. Okay. Okay, and I'm just picking moves to show the plan. I mean, black can play better moves than this. Okay, queen here, castles. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play this, which is unnecessary. There's a reason I'm doing this. You'll see in a moment. And because it helps show you some of the drawbacks of shoving this pawn up here. Okay, white to play. We're going to do this. Now we're going to do this. And now we're going to go threaten mate. Okay, now black definitely has some problems here. We're not only threatening mate, we're threatening to take this. And we're also, in some situations, we could be threatening to put our queen here on g6. And again, the rationale for this is this pawn is pinned. You know, it can't take. And, you know, this move h6 does weaken this g6 square. So this is one of the examples of how white can go against this. So let's back it up, and I'll be careful not to go all the way to the beginning this time. As I said, it's something that might happen with either side of the board. Okay. See? Now, black is the one that does those tricks. He's down a tempo, but, you know, again, I'm just making moves. Let's pin it this time. Now we'll break the pin. What's white going to do now? I don't know. Let's see. Let's go after this bishop, just for the fun of it. Now, again, just random moves. Kick that. Let's try to redeploy this knight. Now, black definitely has some attacking chances here. H6. Oh wait, this thing's hanging. No, yeah, because now the knight's here. Yeah, that's right. I forgot to mention that. See, we're playing this because he can't take it. We have the mate.
Checkmate.
I thought that, but I didn't say it. But 93, I was just redeploying the knight. I forgot for a moment this was protected. But, you know, here, you know, this is what's going to happen in the game you play with this line. I don't know. I'm trying to make reasonable moves for both sides, but I am illustrating that black has some attacking chances here. Let's just protect the knight. And now, let's suppose white plays this voluntarily on his own. You know, suddenly we have this check. And the point is, this pawn is overworked, and it's pinned. And, you know, now black to play. Let's get something else in the game. I'm going to put the king here so I can swing this knight around, okay? Well, here, notice that if white grabs this knight, we steal this and get it right back. So, you know, these are some ideas you can use if you're playing white or black, if you choose this line. So let's get back to the beginning and set up the piano. I've seen this move played a lot, and what often happens is, and you can't copy forever, one side or the other gets this pin in and then follows up with the knight here, and then they must undergo double pawns. And it's kind of bad, especially if you've castled king side. You know, it's something either side can do, and I've seen either side do it. But I'm going to show you, if you're able to do this, this is great. This is why some people will stop and play this move to just take that away. But now it's taken away from both sides. But let's look at some examples where it happens. Okay, let's go here and suppose black castles, and then white goes here. Now black has a problem. Okay. So, for instance, h6, this pawn is overworked. White just steals a pawn and has a weakened king position to play against. Okay. So black is relegated to having to accept a pawn deficit. Let's develop this bishop for the fun of it. Let's suppose black tries this. Now, which way would you take? You want to double his pawns. Would you take with the knight? Or would you take with the bishop? Now, the logical thing is probably to take with the knight.
Check. Because
even though our bishop is tempoed, we get to return the favor. Okay. But actually, it's more strategically sound to take with the bishop. You'll see why in a moment. Now, we break the pin, so that black can't come and do the same thing. Now, this is a very subtle move. It creates a threat, which I'll explain in a moment. Let's suppose black says, okay, now this is not only dangerous because it opens up the G file, but it loses because there's no rule that says white has to take this bishop. Instead, white comes over here, and black can resign. the problem is f6. Pick a move for black. Well, let's just steal a pawn and see what happens. Well, I'm going to do this check.
Check.
Okay. Now, if you move the king, you get mated.
Checkmate.
Okay. So what does that mean? It means you have to give up the queen. And, you know, here, you know, black's getting something for it. But he's got, let's see, he's going to lose this bishop. This bishop is a goner. Here I'm going to trap it. I'm going to bring the king up, and I'm going to steal that guy. I don't think, you know, and then the moment you try this,
Check.
I just pick it up here. Now here white has a queen for a rook and a knight. So that, you know, then there's several variations of this. So I chose this because black got a rook out of it, but the rook wasn't enough. So, you know, be careful that this doesn't happen to you. And I don't necessarily recommend that you get into one of these positions where both sides are playing this just to shut it out, because symmetrical position, it's very, 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 very drawish. You know, you can come back and try my ideas, but, you know, as I mentioned earlier, this is the best move and avoids all those pitfalls. So let's back it up. So, you know, knight c3 or d3, you know, they can lead to the knights being pinned and the double pawns. Let me show you the sharpest move here. c3. Now, this is a very, very interesting move. The idea is white wants to play d4 and try to get a pawn center. That's what white's trying to do. So sometimes what white's doing, I won't cover this in great length, is the Evans Gambit. The idea is that if he's giving up a pawn, if either piece takes it, white will gain a tempo to get this pawn center in. Okay, that's one of the ideas. We're sacrificing a pawn. This is an old gambit from the 1800s. Garry Kasparov revived it a number of years ago and scored some nice wins with it. So it bears investigation. I do believe if black plays it correctly, he will stand better. He'll just steal a pawn and hold on to it. But Kasparov might beg to disagree. You can be the judge if you look at his games and the suggestions. So anyway, gotta study. So let's, whoops, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, c3. So what's black's best move? Black's best move is to bring off his knight. Now, the strongest move for white is d4. And this is the main line. We take and take. Now, what to do with this bishop? Now, I've seen players blunder here and play bishop b6. This is awful. Now, white gets to advance both the center pawns and chase the knights. We have to do it in the right order. The right order is to move this first. If we move this first, black may very well counter with this. And this is a strategy used in something they call the Max Lang attack, which I didn't cover. It can occur out of the Scotch Gambit or two knights defense as possible transposition. They didn't cover it. It's not important. Well, I guess it is important, but suffice it to say, this is a reasonable reply. So if we get this position, we want to kick this first and take this away. So he needs to save his knight. Let's say he goes back here. We play this, and you know, white's pawn center is just incredibly strong, and white controls a heck of a lot of turf, and black needs to find a way to save this knight. It's not easy, you know. Knight here, we might just let's see, we can't play h3 directly. Let's castle, and you know, this and maybe shattering his pawn structure could be very strong for white. So, you know, bishop b6 is not a good move. This is the
check.
move of the check. Now, White has two main lines here. I'm going to introduce the trickier one. This is where study can score you points. Now they call this the molar attack, M-O-E-L-L-A-R. There are many ways for black to defend this, but for the most part, black has to make about, 4 to 8 moves, maybe more, depending on the line we go into, that are forced, or they're not necessarily forced. They're its best moves. If he fails to make one of them, he could end up with a very, very bad game. So here White's willing to sacrifice a pawn. Okay, now black takes this and he's ready to win another pawn. By capturing this pawn cost a tempo. White castles. And let me show you how black can have a disaster here in a hurry if you're not prepared. Maybe he plays knight takes and bishop takes. Now black is not only 2 pawns ahead, he's gained a tempo on the rook. But there's one major problem here for black. The king is still in the center. So white to plays bishop a3. And if black takes the bait, he's up a whole bunch of material, but he's not going to keep it. Because suddenly here comes this check. And black cannot move his king. He has to block. Let's try the knight first.
Check.
Now, black has 2 legal moves. If he plays king here, he's going to walk right into mate, I think. See, rook takes check, 2 legal moves. If you come here, white has a double checkmate.
Checkmate.
See, double checkmate. Kind of fun to have a double checkmate, huh? So, what about this move? Well, I don't think it's any better because
check.
We just get a mate on e7.
Checkmate.
So what this basically means is after rook takes check, he has to give up the queen. And this bishop is a nuisance, so let's get rid of it. Now here, point count, the material is even, but white's practically winning this. Black has a problem. His king is the only piece developed. His bishop can't move, meaning his rooks can't get in the game. Okay, black has 1 open file right now. White should be able, no matter what black does, white should be able to build up a very, very powerful position here. Okay, like for instance d6 trying to free the bishop. Here comes queen e1 check.
Check.
And if king out of 6, not only is the king exposed, but the rooks, you can't, for the moment, you can't get a rook down here. So this would be dangerous. If the king steps back, his rooks are still not connected. So white should be able to find a strong attack here. Matter of fact, let's just start with this move. Okay. So black's in serious trouble here. So we want to win this way with white, but we don't want to lose this way with black. But this is just an example of one of the many, many, many traps that are in this variation. So what does black do here? Well, the best defense is to take this. And again, there are many lines. This is a variation, but this is determined to have been the best. Now, black is temporarily up a piece, but he can't keep it. I mean, for one, white could take this right now. But white continues thusly. And now black's best move is to come back here. So here I've played 3, since the molar attack started with castling, I've played 3 best moves in a row for black. And he's not done yet. These are all pretty much forced or you get a bad game. Now, here I think white's strongest move is bishop g5. Now we're threatening double pawns, so black needs to take. And so 5 consecutive best moves for black. And this diverges. There's a number of variations. Like h6, I think white has this sack here. I think white even has this sack here. You'd have to look these up to see more about it. white's down a piece, but you know, this bishop is kind of useless. The king position is a little loose. You know, there's weak squares, control over this square. You know, find a way to get queen there, and that's mate. So, you know, white has a number of choices. They all require study. White could even play this move, I think. So maybe not. Maybe this. Maybe. Well, no, we just back the queen up. See, now black's position is kind of troublesome. Again, you'd have to look up the theory, not to mention the fact that we're threatening to come over here. So, you know, black can't castle. We can, but now how's he going to stop checkmate? And it's not easy if it's at all possible. So anyway, let's get back up. So queen h5 is a line. Black can castle here, and you know, maybe there's a set. I don't remember all the analysis, but you know, because I don't play this as white. I don't allow it. I don't allow it as black. But we kind of get an idea that, you know, some of these lines are just super ultra tricky. So, you know, find a book on this opening and spend time with it. You know, your chess is only going to get better. So you're not going to solve, if you don't know these lines. I think I mentioned this already, but it bears repeating. You're not going to solve this in a tournament game. You're simply not. Okay, so let's back this up and let's discuss the other strategies. Whoops, I keep my mouse drifts. Okay, let's get back. Now, white doesn't have to play knight c3. The other line is to play bishop d2. Okay, now, and this check is what saves black from this torment that I was talking about. So black takes.
Check.
Now the best way to take back is with the knight. Now this is a threat again. So pretty much black's next move is forced. He has to play d5. And this is the best move. Now white takes and black takes. Now, years ago when I learned this line, I mentioned an expert on the two knights. He was an expert on this line too. White's strongest move here is queen b3. Okay, and black's, I was taught that black's best reply is to go here. Okay, now we're going to discuss this position in a moment, but we'll come back to it. But I had a student I was working with for about 2.5 years. He would reach this position a lot as white and with black, and white would always castle here. And you know, back in '74, I was playing against this aforementioned expert on this defense, and I either forgot the line or didn't think it mattered, but it does matter. I castled. Now queen b3 is a blunder because, you know, he can move the knight to he can now move this knight. f7 is covered, so he simply moved the knight here. You know, if he plays this, we've transposed. But there's no rule that says he has to play that. It's not a good move because this is a good move. And the net result of this move was I have to take. I can't lose this pawn. And I blundered it about 8 moves later, but I think I played d5, and he picked up the bishop pair, and he might even be winning this pawn directly. Like I said, I blundered this pawn soon after. But to make a long story short, my student, they wouldn't play queen b3 like I did, but black would end up doing well because black has this pin, and you know, d4 becomes a problem. So I'm asking him, I say, well, why don't you play queen b3? Now, I admit that, you know, I learned this opening when I was, you know, about 1800 strength. and I didn't question, somebody that's rated over 2,000 that's been playing it for 15 years, and he's still playing strong and lively chess. He's still alive today. He's 81, but I'm not going to question an authority. Maybe you should question an authority in chess. Don't just take your word for it. But I asked my student, why are you not playing Queen B3? And the reason was he didn't want this to happen. But this is fine for white. And here's what we do.
Check.
Play this check. Now, black plays c6. If he brings the knight back, let's see, that was a line 2. If anything, we can just repeat the position. But I think castling would be best. Let's see, castles, and if he wants the bishop bad enough, just let him have it. Let's be a nuisance. Let's be whatever kind of nuisance we can here. Okay. So black will play here. Now, while this pawn is pinned defensively, this is the time to take. So, he's been unwilling to get the bishop here, but this was the time to do it. Now black must take with the queen. Now we castle. Okay, now we're threatening to give a check and maybe force him into a pin he doesn't want. So black castles. Now, earlier we were talking in the Hungarian defense, we're talking about this knight on the rim is dim. White is close to winning it, except that this queen controls this square and black escapes. So we just prepared this move like this. There's a reason we use this rook. I don't remember right off the top of my head. Maybe it has to do with the fact that this thing can be loose. But now, what's black going to do? We don't know. But rook here is a threat. So let's see. So one idea black has is to play queen b5. But now we just trade the queen, and we had an isolated pawn, which in itself is a weakness, but now it's not so weak anymore because it's now a passed pawn, and black has a double pawn. If we consider this pawn a double pawn as a weakness, we can almost say that pawn doesn't exist, and white's a pawn up. And for intents purposes, white is. White can take the 7th rank right now if he so chose. White can advance this pawn. Maybe it's not safe to advance the pawn, but it's going to be advancing soon. So what are black's other defenses here? Well, one is to play b6. But now, after b5 or b4, we get something similar. Except that, like in this line, white's actually won the pawn. So, this is not bad for white at all. So we want to play queen b3 on the 10th move. So what does black do here? He plays this move that I was taught back in 1974. Now we castle. Now, there's a strategy. White does have a weakness here. It's the isolated pawn on d4. But isolated pawns, they can actually be strengths, and it is very strong in this position. Let's explain why. Okay, number one is controlling 2 squares in the center. That's the number one reason. Number two, white has 2 open files for his rooks. So, when you have an isolated queen pawn, you have 2 open files for your rooks. That's by default, because if there wasn't an isolated queen pawn, there'd be a pawn here on e3, c3, or a pawn on e3, and you wouldn't have an open file for a rook, now would you? White has another bonus here. He's ahead in development. Okay. Now, I had a game back in 74 from the black side of this. I'll talk about that in just a moment. I want to mention one of the reasons why knight e7 is back. The strategy for playing against an isolated queen pawn best summarized as a three-word strategy. Restrain, blockade, destroy. What does that mean? Well, restrain means let's keep it from advancing up to d5 where it might have an influence in the black position. Blockade, well, it's been blockaded. This is a perfect position to play against that isolated pawn. Okay, black controls controls d5. That's an outpost, and knights are the best blockaders of isolated pawns. Aaron Nimzovich taught us that, my system. So the destroy part can come in the endgame. Usually, you're not going to lose that isolated pawn too early. It'll come down to the endgame, and the general rule is that while white has all these pieces on the board, he's doing fine. But as pieces are exchanged, the isolated pawn becomes weaker, and theoretically, if black can get down to like a king and knight endgame, his idea would be to try to transfer the king to d5 to free the knight to go create weaknesses among the other white pawns. Okay, that would be the strategy. But black's a long way from realizing that. And as I mentioned, I had this position back in '74. I was playing I was like maybe 1780 or somewhere around there. I'm playing an under 18 section. I played a kid that became a master within a few years, and I had black, and I barely drew. I've looked at the game recently, and wow, I played it well. I had to come up with some very tricky moves when it looked like white was getting somewhere, because black still has prep work to do here. First off, it's white's move. We want to continue the blockade here, but after this, look at white's development advantage. He's developed his entire queen side, and put this rook in play, where black has nothing in common. So, if you both sides play this perfectly, the game's going to end in a draw. Okay, but who's more likely to blunder? The side with the pieces developed, or the side without? And the answer is the side without. So black has to navigate a minefield for several moves. Like, for instance, queen c7 would be a blunder. Bishop takes, and white is just won a piece. Black has to play some defense here. It's easy. So if you like having a development advantage at the expense of one weakness, or then this is the opening for you. So this gives you an indication of what you can do with this opening. Again, I could go into greater detail and cover more, but I've got the basics down, and the basics will guide you to studying this further. So if you're able to watch this live, you've learned a lot. If you like it, you want to watch the video again, and then you want to pick up some books on it. Now, the other choice is you can, if you without a book, it's something like Chess Base. Now, I mentioned earlier broadcast, Chess Inform. It's been published twice a year since 1966, and in some cases, they moved up to 3 or 4 times a year. So they're around volume 130. I used to have that set, and maybe up to volume 56. I sold it off in 1996, so volume 60 if I had it current. I don't know about you, but I've owned a lot of books, and when I used to move, I'd have 40 crates of them. It's a lot of books. And so I ended up selling off a lot of my chess books that I could compress down, it can compress into a database. So instead of having those books on my shelf, I could just call them up by searching and get all the games in a certain variation. And we got some cash for the books, which was nice. So you don't have to buy a whole lot of books. The databases will do it, but often the databases come unannotated. ChessBase does have an annotated collection, though. I mean, if you're willing to pay a little more, you can get that if you want the annotations. But it's a great, aside from the book, which is always friendly. A program like ChessBase you can search this position and see what happened. And you may even be able. Let's back this up slightly. You can search this position, and you might find some examples of this. Okay, you might find some examples of this. That's a horrible move from knight b4. But like I say, you may find some examples. You may find this check for what it's
check.
I'm just looking at this now. We play knight e5. Maybe we can just play king here. The idea of doing this, I don't know. Black has this resource, but again, you can search the database. Maybe queen e7 is mentioned in a book of this opening. I don't know, but one of the keys to getting better at chess is to learn some openings. Okay, somebody did say hi, Coach Bill. I don't know, I missed it. Hi. Okay. Hello. Thanks for being here. All right. Let's see. Let me bring the board back. Okay. I think I can always show more. I think I pretty much exhausted the material on the piano and the two knights defense and the other openings that lead to similar types of positions. So I'm going to stay on. I'll be online another 30 minutes, but I need to take a break. I've got to get my vocal cords a little break, and I've got to get a little liquid to help gargle with, so to speak. And then I'll come back. What I'd like you to do is I'm going to type in here in broadcast, and I must break for 10 minutes. Please ask questions and I will answer. I would rather go this route. I can always create stuff, but I'd rather go this route because you're here, you're watching, and you probably have a question. Wouldn't you like it answered? Okay? That's my logic. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording.